Yeah.
But it's for you to prove it. You can try and also post your solution on our social networks profile. And as always, the guest word is the cue to the end of Words and Facts. So Matthew, Marius and Nadia, thank you for coming. Until next time. Okay, so it's time for a short pause. We'll be right back with an in-depth chat on feminism with journalist Samanta Villar, illustrators Malika Favre and Leona, and the editor and collaborator of our show, Patricia Scalona. So stay tuned. As promised, to celebrate the International Women's Day, which is tomorrow, we are having a chat about the situation of women from an original point of view, that is deadly sins. But first, let's take a look at the definition of some words which will be highlighted in the subtitles and will help you follow the conversation.
Feminism is our main topic today because there are still many prejudices and problems for women to overcome. If you overcome a problem, you successfully deal with it, you defeat it, or gain an advantage over someone or something in a struggle or conflict. One of the most important things feminism is fighting against is patriarchy. It is a social system in which men hold primary power and predominate in roles of political leadership, moral authority and social privilege. Even if not explicitly defined to be by their own constitutions and laws, most contemporary societies are in practice patriarchal. Probably as a result of these patriarchal societies, we find catcalls. A catcall is a loud whistle or a comment of a sexual nature made by a man to a passing woman, usually on the street. And last but not least, one of the most powerful weapons feminism has is sorority. Sorority is a close bond between women based on the sharing of experiences, interests and concerns.
In the book Pecadoras Capitales, 7 writers and 7 illustrators reinterpret the 7 cardinal sins or point out what are the ones we are obliged to overcome from a feminist point of view. And we have here today with us Samanta Villar. Welcome, Leona, Malika Favre, and of course Patricia Scalona. Welcome all.
Thank you.
Well, our collaborator Patricia Scalona is the editor and wrote the prologue of this book that we have here with us today, Pecadoras Capitales, Capital Sinners, a beautiful edition in which every deadly sin is illustrated and analyzed by a talented female artist and writer. Published by Me Gusta Leer from Penguin Random House. We are sure that it won't leave you indifferent and it will help you put on the purple glasses, right, Patricia?
We hope so, yeah. That's just another step towards it, yeah.
Okay, it is a very beautiful book indeed, but first things first, let's see why this book, how it came about and why.
It's become increasingly difficult to find ways of talking about feminism without boring people on the one hand, and then without repeating yourself a lot. And I always try to choose a funny kind of lighter approach to it, or at least that includes several points of view that can help people understand feminism as a political and sociological phenomenon that it is and it should be. So this came about just thinking about another way of explaining feminism, which would include the points of view of very, very different women, which is what I'm mostly interested in. I mean, what women think about the movement and everything. So.
7 illustrators and 7 writers. Why these names? Why Malika? Why Leona? Why Samanta and the rest?
Because of personal affinity a little bit. Some of them I knew beforehand, like
okay.
Samanta I didn't, sorry, but Malika and Leona I knew before. Samantha I didn't, but I admired her because of her.
Oh, thank you.
What she has been doing. I admire
I didn't know that.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Because of her work, basically. So I think she's a great professional. They are, of course, but they're also closer to me, so they were easy to approach. And I knew they were going to have a great idea. I knew Samanta was going to come up with something incredible. So that's why I kept thinking about women that I liked and admired.
Okay, so let me ask you, have you always been feminists yourselves? And what do you think about, I mean, where do we stand at the moment? Is there still a lot of work to be done in terms, we want to achieve gender equality and so on?
I thought that I have always been feminist, but it's impossible to run away from all that we have learned. It's impossible to run away from patriarchy. It has been there. So sometimes I find myself like thinking things that are super sexist. And it's like, no, get out from my head, no? And I think that I'm a feminist in progress. I'm trying to deconstruct myself.
Yeah, it's a good way.
Very honest way of putting it, actually, because we're all learning all the time, and a lot of people.
We are all learning, exactly.
Yeah, I agree with you actually, and I think like I've always been a feminist, but I think I realized it the day I started bumping into problems, in a way, the day I started facing these issues, and I think when I was younger, I kept saying, no, I've never been treated differently. I never felt limited, by the fact of being a woman. But then as I grew older, I really realized that some things were still happening and that it wasn't normal. So I guess there is a kind of eureka moment with these things, but then you kind of think it was always there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was something similar for me as well. Like, I don't think I was a feminist some years ago, but someday you just wake up, you become aware of some things that are happening. I think it's precisely because you grow up and you start finding some difficulties more than other men, for example. No?
You slowly start realizing that.
That's it, yeah. For example, at work or that kind of thing, no? Or when you start sharing experiences and then you realize that it's not only you that went through this, but massively, and then it's like, what is going on? And that happened not so many years ago. It was like the big first 8th of March. It was like how many years ago? 4?
3, 4?
3, 4, something like that. That was really a wake up for everyone.
Okay, right. Malika Favre is a French artist based in Barcelona. Her minimal style has made the New Yorker's cover many times, and she has published in Vogue, New York Times, and Vanity Fair, among other magazines. And in this book we've got here today, she has illustrated the essay about pride. Right?
Yes,
Malika?
I have.
Okay, tell us about this. It's very beautiful. By the way, we can see it on the screen. And let me ask you if you've ever been accused of being arrogant just for, imposing your criteria in your job, for example. Or what do you think feminists are often regarded as arrogant?
Can I say something before?
Yeah, sure.
Just a little note. The artists are artists, and they make their own interpretations on the scenes. It's not like she read the
it's like
essay
independent
and then,
from the essay.
Yeah, completely independent. They had their own thing.
But actually, I read a couple of days ago when I got the book.
So you read it after?
Text. I read it after. I read the text, and I was actually really surprised that actually there was a good match. There was a real echo between the illustration and what was written.
Right.
And also I realized that yes, it is actually it could be considered my sin, I think, because I was lucky enough to grow up in an environment, like I had a big brother, and I was lucky enough to have a family that treated us absolutely equally with my brother. So I never thought I was any less, than my brother, or that I had any less skills. But to a point where I was I was quite an arrogant kid, you could say, in a way. I don't know if it's because, but then growing up, I remember something that now I can really associate with pride, is that a lot of people told me that I was very masculine, for a girl. And I kind of grew up thinking, yeah, okay, whatever, I'm the way I am. But then actually I realized this is wrong, this is wrong. And I think the masculine part that people were seeing was actually because I was as ambitious and putting myself out there, as boys, except people were not used to seeing girls being like that,
So you think that people often consider feminists as arrogant or proud? Because of that, because they are just trying to impose their criteria in their work, for example?
I don't know, imposing, but at least we're letting ourselves be heard, which is something that's kind of new, no?
Yes.
That
To
hasn't
make their
been happening
voices heard, right?
Personally, from my life and kind of what I went through, I also realized that I think because also of the society we were living in, for example, I put all my energy, for example, in my 20s, I put absolutely all my energy in working and in making a place for myself. But, also to the detriment sometimes of relationships and of other things, because I kind of felt I couldn't do both, and if I wanted to make it, I kind of had to really focus on that because I felt I had to, subconsciously, I had to prove myself twice as hard, I think.
See. Exactly what you mean. Okay, let's go to Leona. She's a cartoon artist, illustrator, and director. For example, of the crab apples. This is her latest video clip. She has just published a book called Sex O, in which she talks about sexual discovery and empowerment, and which has surely helped a lot of women rethink their own sexual life. Okay, Leona, your illustration is for
Love. Today I have learned this word.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Which is a synonym of?
Anger.
Anger, exactly. All right, so why do you think that women are not allowed by society to show anger?
Yeah, well,
Why they are judged if they do that?
this is the same that you were saying before, that the text of the book is talking about that. But my illustration it's about gender violence, because when I thought about anger, I was thinking about about romantic love and how this romantic love can become in gender violence. How a sentence that can be super romantic isn't so romantic as it looks, no? Like in my case, it's about the sentence is "I would kill for you." That it can sound really nice, no? That someone tells this to you. But in a relationship, it can become something possessive and ending with gender violence.
Okay.
The text is talking about what you were talking about, that is the possibility to show yourself as an anger woman. That it's true that it's like the girls cannot shout, no? Girls cannot fight.
Or like a friend of mine told me once, you can't be or show anger after 40. What do you think of that?
Really? What?
Really?
So what?
Okay.
Yeah, we should ask him, or maybe we should send him Patricia, no?
Yes, please do. I have no problem showing my anger to
I
people
think it also
and men.
it really goes with the concept of hysteria
Yes.
as well. I think
Exactly.
hysteria was
Yeah.
linked to, it was actually at some point some kind of medical condition, that women were kind of being diagnosed with.
Yeah.
So I think it goes with that. An angry woman, at some point in time was considered hysterical. You had to cure it.
I was just remembering now that there was this doctor, right around that era when hysteria was diagnosed, who started curing it by providing orgasms.
Yeah.
So,
I remember that.
I remember that. There was a film about that
Yeah.
not that long ago. It was really funny. So
Yeah.
I thought, I'm all for it. I mean, if, Alice owes me. I'm
hysteric. I'm hysteric. Yeah.
Okay, and let's move on to Samanta Villar, a Catalan journalist, TV presenter known for her docu-realities, now working at 4 TV. She has written the book La Carga Mental Femenina and Madre Ai Masche Una about maternity and labor conciliation. And in this book, she writes about, Samantha?
Envy is my topic. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Well, you write about envy between women. Okay. You've actually suffered criticism for being a different kind of mother, proud mother, right?
Well, for telling the truth,
Yeah.
I think it's precise, I think.
Exactly.
That's
People are
it.
not used to it.
Yeah. Well, it was somehow I feel it's mandatory for me as a journalist to tell you the truth that I find. I mean, and when I realized that in maternity or motherhood, when I stepped into it and I realized that many things about raising a child were not spoken in a loud voice. They were not told in public forums, I thought, why? What is going on? Because it's really intense. It's everyone is experiencing and living this, and no one is talking about this. So this is clearly a taboo. And then I realized, okay, if this is a taboo and many people are going through this, this is something that I need to tell. And in my way of doing things is quite intense. This is my personality. So I choose really, and it was, I thought about it and I did it like I believed I had to, like choose the intense words that for me have not only the meaning, I'm not only telling you that this is hard, because usually women allow themselves to say, okay, to become a mother is hard. It has some hard things. For me, that's too light. So I like to say, this is terrible sometimes. It takes you to one limit physically and psychologically and that kind of thing.
It's not all perfect, right?
Yeah, and then it was too much for many, I must tell, women. This was it. So for many people, maybe because men are not used to talk about motherhood, they're not into that much in this topic. But yeah, it was really tough for many people.
Okay.
Yeah, to
okay,
hear
we are talking about women. So what about this concept of sorority, right?
Yeah.
Or sisterhood? Is this new, or do you think it has always existed?
I think it has existed, but maybe we were not aware of what it was.
Yeah.
But I precisely now that we're talking about raising motherhood, it's always been women, the allies, like sisters or cousins or grandmothers, etc. They were always how do you say that, tribu,
Tribe.
a
Tribe,
tribe.
yeah,
They've always been a tribe. They have helped each other. So this sisterhood has existed. But when you go out of the family and you make some other alliations, you're allied with other people, you ally yourself with other people. I think we are now more aware of this. Like, okay.
Do you think that it's true that sometimes women are other women's worst enemies?
No.
That was my chapter, actually.
That was
my chapter, actually, the envy. No, I don't think so.
It's a cliche, right?
It's a cliche.
It's another,
as always,
just another cliche.
you will find examples of everything in life, among the women, amongst men, etc. But it's true that it has been highlighted, this kind of relationship, the envy between women has been highlighted more than sorority or other things, and they exist.
Exactly.
Of course.
That was one of the things that Leona was saying before, is like one of the lies of the patriarchy, try to make out enemies of ourselves, it's like instead of what sorority in the way we conceive it now in the past decade, I'd say, is like trying to overcome whatever we've been told about other women and whatever the competition wants, whatever, and just stop, listen to them and see what is happening. So that's what made things like the Me Too movement happen, when women decided to believe other women instead of, putting their word in doubt when they were saying, like, I've been raped by this guy.
It's actually, for me, it was very funny to realize that they say we are envy of other women and we are like in a competition. It's very related to envy with other women. And as soon as you look at men, there is competition all the time. I mean, this is like one of the characteristics of so sad, no? Of men. So it's really weird. Like, why, if we compete, we are envious, and if they compete, it's just the normal DNA.
Yeah.
Male DNA.
And just mates.
And I have to say that this book exists because of sorority. Because when I call these women who have a very rich professional life, and they earn a lot from their jobs because they're really good at them, and I tell them, look, I'm doing this. It's not paying much, but we're gonna give a little bit to a foundation that fights gender violence. We're gonna do this all with all these women. They all jumped into it. They were all like, yeah, whatever.
That's
okay.
a good
And
thing
they
to know.
wanted to be part of it. So this is sorority.
And we are grateful for it. Okay, but let's change the subject for a moment. For example, lately some actresses have refused to call themselves as such, the word actresses, and prefer the term actor. Okay, so this has been also reproduced in the media and so on. So do you think that feminism has changed also the way we write, the way we speak? Is that okay? Do you agree with it? Or, I don't know, what's your opinion on it?
Well, this is something, as I said before, that I wasn't feminist in the beginning, and I didn't realize why should we say investigadores y investigadoras. I don't know, in English, is there any difference?
It's the
I don't
same.
think
It wouldn't
so.
be now. No,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be now.
So at the
It's
beginning,
like
it was like,
a female investigator,
Yeah.
or in this case,
okay.
actor.
So at the beginning,
actress.
I wasn't really, I didn't really understand why, until the day that I came up with this word precisely, a male researcher and female researcher, because it was the name for a classroom in a school. And for me, it was the first time when I saw investigadores, investigadoras, when I realized that every time that I imagined a researcher, I was always imagining a man. So when they said investigadoras, for the first time, and I was really grown up, I'm a 35-year-old maybe, I imagined a woman researching. And then I realized the importance of the thing. It was like, wow, it's not stupid, as I believed before. Like, why shouldn't we double language all the time? We really have, because it has a main role in your imagination. And it's very important that you can imagine your future role, your ambition, your goal in life. You need to imagine that.
Do you agree, Malika, Leona?
For me, like, I think it's also like a wider conversation. I don't think it's only about feminism. It's about genders, you know, and all the conversation that have been going on, you know, with like how, like, I think the kids today, they can identify with way more genders than we can actually name, you know, and like the world is changing, and you have all these conversations about, you know, public toilets being, you know, male or female, like, should we start separating? And for now, what's happening is that, you know, we're adding words, and I think it's not, some people might find it really silly, but I think sometimes it's, you need to change something very, very basic for people to actually, you know, to make a point, and for people to actually think, oh, okay, does that actually make a difference in my mind? And the same way you just said, you know, it actually does. So what if, you know, there was no gender, and what if there was only one way, you know, of talking about everybody? But if everybody was a it, and it wasn't a bad thing because everybody is a it. So, you know, you kind of,
I also think, like you, that it would be super cool to not have genders, no?
To have one
Not
language
have
that kind of
levels.
just is talking about human, you know.
I actually believe that's the next step.
Yeah.
I really believe that's going to happen. And for new generations, sexuality and gender is very different from how I at least lived it when I was young. It's like
What you were taught, right?
yeah.
We bought into, because we were taught that, and we grew up believing that was the only way we could behave, really. And now suddenly they are teaching us, younger people are teaching us a whole bunch of things that we never thought. And if you are open enough and kind enough, you're going to learn a lot. And I really think it's cool and really good for us.
Okay, it's great because this helps us to move on to the next step in this program. And it's the fact that feminism is stirring society, like we said, it's changing things, even if too slowly, maybe. One of them is language. So we've adapted our language tips ourselves, and we invite you to watch a short tip about the singular they. Because yes, it's true, they can be singular as well.
Hi. Did you know that the pronoun they can be used in the singular? This has gained popularity in the past few decades as a gender-neutral alternative to he or she when you don't know or when you don't want to specify someone's gender. So when you're using the indefinite pronouns, someone, anyone, or no one, you can use they after that, and indeed its derivatives, they, their, them, themselves. For example, you can tell your partner about the problem and see what they think. We can even see more and more people who don't identify as either male or female. For example, Alex is driving their car. It can sound strange for English students, but if you pay attention, you will see that they in the singular is being used more and more in the media. Thank you.
It's all the same every day.
Actor, singer, songwriter Nicole Colors is an artist from San Diego with many talents. We'll ask her about this and about Tesla Nix, her musical alter ego. Stay tuned.
Shining in the sky.
Welcome back. We continue our conversation today with the journalist Samanta Villar, illustrators Malika Favre and Leona, and the editor Patricia Escalona. They have co-authored the book Pecadoras Capitales. And we continue with another sin, Patricia, with sloth, which is a synonym for...
Laziness.
Okay. It's a quite difficult word, sloth, right? Well, sloth in the book also refers to this kind of apathy, right, shown by some feminists towards other women, yeah, who are not treated very well.
There's a word in feminism that we are very familiar with, which is intersectionality, which means that you not only care about the rights of women, but you see the rights of women included in a series of other rights which are not being met by society, like the rights of, in this case, Desiree Bella Lobebde talks about the race and how she is in the feminist movement as a woman of color. And
that's a good point.
Difficulties that that has, and how we white women, we white heterosexual cis women, sometimes do not realize what that means, and we have a tendency to try and shut them up and not realize that they have a whole different set of necessities to be met inside of feminism. And I'm talking for her because she's not here. I should be shutting up, really, because I'm white as milk, and I've lived my own privilege, which I have no one else. But since I'm here, I feel like that's a very important essay.
Exactly, yeah, because why is feminism almost always pictured by middle class white women?
Good question.
Because middle class or bourgeoisie started feminism, really. Started the movement for the suffragettes were all like middle class women, women of color and women of poor backgrounds were too busy trying to survive and have their families fed. So the women who could actually spend some time doing something that was important, yes, but it was only a necessity of people who were wealthy enough not to have to worry about how they were going to eat every day. So that's why. So we took advantage of that. Historically, white women, have still wanted to keep that for ourselves, and it's not anymore.
Okay, and we prepared something for you. I would like to invite you to watch something related to what you said before. Black Women Living in a Parallel World is the last photographic work of the Dominican journalist Catherine Reyes. There she wants to fight against racist stereotypes, and we've been to the exhibition held at Sala Phoenix in Barcelona and talked with some visitors about the prejudices that still exist towards non-white women.
I really like it because all the characters in the photos are black women. It's not very common usually, so it's important to give visibility to people that are usually not shown, that are invisible.
Every photo has got something different and show a special history of one woman. You can feel from solitude, from the power that they need.
It's always a good time to expose these differences and the kind of stereotypes they live, and to watch it here in Barcelona, where it's supposed to be a very cosmopolitan country, but at the end of the day, there is a lot of racism.
I think it's important to remember all kind of women, women that are not white, women that are queer, so like it cannot be just about white women, or like it has to be inclusive.
I was working in Cuba. People treat me in a special way because I white European girl. I had a relationship with a black woman. People that treat me in the positive way, they change the attitude and they treat me worse.
I was born here and raised here. I'm Catalan, my mother is Catalan, but my father is Japanese, so I have Asian background. I think there's also racism against us Asian descendant people and also mixed race people. I think it's different, the kind of racism that we live from the racism that black women live, but it's everything wrong. So
I loved how some photos had in the background photos of white women, so you can see like the contrast, but also the black beauty. It should be reminded to people the intersectionality that black women suffer, I guess.
I'm tired of this situation. And I think culture has a lot to do with it, because if you watch the television and you only can see white people.
I liked how most of them have afro hair, so natural hair, which is also super important because it's being racialized, the hair, and many black women have been straightening it and hurt themselves with it. I have my natural hair since only a few months, to be honest. Before I used to straighten it as well. So I accepted myself, I accepted my identity as a biracial person recently, I would say. And I was totally surprised by how people would start touching my hair without asking me if they could touch it, or people, they just stare at you in the streets. And yes, they compliment you, oh, your hair is beautiful, but they stare at you, which makes you feel super uncomfortable. You feel like really objectified or like exotic, like you're something, that people, you're the other. Maybe they're not conscious about it, but they feel like they have the legitimacy to touch my hair. And so I give them the permission, but I would like to learn to say in a kind way, no, please, it makes me feel uncomfortable, do not touch it. But I still have to learn.
Okay, opinion of visitors to this exhibition about the prejudices existing towards non-white women. I would like to ask you if you agree and if you think that there are still prejudices present in your social circles, the way they say in this video.
Well, I have a lot to say about that. No, I mean, the problem is that there is still an incredible amount of racism out there. I mean, it is still a fact. And I know that actually, like personally growing up, being like half Arabic and half French, and being called Malika, which is like the equivalent of being called Jordi, here. So it was clearly an Arabic name, and I grew up, and for me actually being from Arabic origins was more, I saw it as more of a problem than being a woman. That was the thing that was the harshest. And I know that for me, moving to London really helped me realize that there was, massive racism in France and in Paris. And because when I arrived in England, I still remember like one day a taxi driver asking me, where are you from? And I said like, oh, so my mom is Algerian, because that's what I used to say when people ask me in Paris. And the guy was like, oh, you sound really French. And that's when I realized, oh my God, that is not part of my identity here, because they don't have the same history in immigration. For them, this is going to happen more with Pakistani people, but not with Arabic, North African people. So, so it is something that is still out there, and it is still a massive problem. So yes, if you have to fight against, being a minority and being a woman, it's kind of double the work. But I have high hopes, and And I think you can see it in the movies, for example, now, like in the rom-coms, like in the chick flicks. I've seen like 2 movies recently, which are really bad, but it's my guilty pleasure, where actually the protagonists are, you know, Asian and white, but they don't make a case of it. It's not actually about, you know, it's not My Big Fat Greek Wedding. It's just British English and, you know, an English guy, and it's still a rom-com. So I think that's where it starts, like education and seeing it out there as if there is no difference, like they're both British characters.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're getting there.
Yeah, I think it's super necessary to see reference,
Yeah.
like you are saying, in movies,
Yeah.
in books, in commercials.
Yeah.
I have been invisibilizing black people, but in my case, because I didn't have any around me, I didn't know, and now I'm trying to put characters that are black or that they are Asian or whatever, because we have to put reference, and they can be in a music video. It's not only for white people.
Right. Any occasions that you can share maybe with us where you felt discriminated or the victim of some sort of sexism?
I think there was a general culture in the approach between men and women for always, for decades. I personally have lived some situations at work, for example, when a boss of mine could make any comment about my body, for example. And it was totally normalized. Like for me, it was normal, and I even could answer to him. Like, I didn't feel that was sexist, but it was, of course. And this is something that has happened always. I've lived many of these kind of situations, and I never thought it was wrong. It was just normal. And among women, there was this kind of way of dealing with the matter, and it was not just stepping and saying, no, what is that? And you have to change. This is the new way, and I love it. Because, but it's a whole culture that has to change.
That's true.
Patricia. Well, many times, of course. But that was a funny one, actually, because this past summer, which is something that happens a lot to a lot of women just walking on the street. So I was catcalled. This guy was riding on his motorbike. He was turning around and he shouted out, "Guapa," you know, like beautiful. And I turned around and said, "Idiot." And he stopped the motorbike, came towards me, took off his helmet. By that point, my friend who was on the other side, like, she was like, okay, this is gonna be, there's something, like, he was really huge, this guy. So he came to me, he's like, do you think it's normal that I call you guapa and you call me an idiot? And it's like, why not? You tell me what you thought of me without me asking. I did exactly the same thing. So, you know, that's, and that's, it's funny, it's a retard, whatever, you know, that way was funny, but it's actually a reflection on why should someone tell me something that I don't want to hear your opinion about me when I'm walking on the street. I did nothing to deserve that, so leave me alone. Catcalling is also a very difficult thing.
It's a good point. Well, unfortunately, we don't have any time left because we are reaching the end of our chat. This means it's time for our question chain. It's a surprise for you. It's a surprise question from our last guest. And on this occasion, the actress and former model, Teresa Gimpera. We told her we'd be having a conversation about feminism today, so she asked something accordingly.
Hello, I am Teresa Gimpera, and I have a question for you. Do you think in the 60s is when we start talking about feminism? Until where we'll arrive? When men will discover women and men are the same?
When will they discover that women and men are the same? I was just saying before, I'm not gonna see it. Not in my lifetime, I don't think.
Really?
Yeah.
I think maybe I'm a
You are
bit of an
optimistic.
optimist. I'm a bit of an optimist, but then I kind of think like things are changing faster and faster, and so many conversations are happening, and now it's kind of like it's been accelerated. I think everything is accelerating, so I'm still quite hopeful that I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful, and I hope you're wrong.
Yes. Okay, Samantha.
Yeah, I'm optimistic as well. It's true that it's going fast, but I think it's so deep. And as she said, like sometimes we ourselves sometimes don't realize all the patriarchy that we have inside. So maybe it will take time. What I really think is that we have the chance to change the new generations as well, and they will grow up in a different world. And
they are
that's
already.
my hope. You know,
They
I mean,
are already thinking
yeah.
in a very different way.
Yeah.
Ladies, we
than
all
us.
come from very urban, like,
Yeah, of course.
environments and
Well,
privilege
No,
as
no,
well.
if
Yeah.
you- if
And we
you're
don't know what's
talking-
going on
No.
in other
If
places.
you're
Countryside,
talking in
yeah,
like,
you're right.
where will it be like everywhere in the world, in every single society, yeah, that
Oh.
will take
Forever.
Yeah.
that will take a very long time.
Yeah.
But it's like it needs to start somewhere to spread.
That's
It
little
needs
by
to
little.
start, this is a very good start, this book, this wonderful book that we have here today, Pecadoras Capitales. Patricia Escalona, I'll see you later in the quiz. Thank you for coming. And Samanta Villar as well, Malika and Leona, thank you so much for coming and sharing your thoughts with us. And we stick with female writers. Here come the book recommendation with two women authors that have made it to the top, J.K. Rowling and Penelope Fitzgerald. This is the Library Recommends with Salva and Aneida from the Xarxa de Bibliotecas Municipals, a Diputació de Barcelona.